Your friend in Central Illinois. WHOW.
Top of the morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in studio this morning is Connie Miller with DeWitt Savings Bank. Good to see you, Connie. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to see you as well.
Yeah, thanks for coming in as always and talking with us. And we're going to dive into cybersecurity. And we hear I think for probably a lot of people, they hear cybersecurity and they think of hospitals, they think of banks, they think of, government, where lots of confidential information resides. But cybersecurity can also be very relatable to us as individuals. How about this?
Yes, totally, because we have a lot of highly confidential information, really just on our phones. And it pertains to us and our families, but it's really important to keep it safe because as you know, we've had this discussion before. It's so easy for criminals to get our information. They can trick us and it can take a lot of time and money to fix those things. And sometimes we lose the money for good.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk cybersecurity. What are some of the basics we need to know about cybersecurity?
Sure. First of all, like when it comes to banking, I would say check your balances frequently. If you see something that's off, report it right away. That could be on your credit card, your debit card. It's a good practice to check it. Some people check it daily. It's different than the old days where you had to register and, the checks came in and out. Because if you find it and you can report it right away, there's less chance of losing a lot of money.
Sure. With cybersecurity, Connie, of course, you talk about all the information at the right at the tip of our fingers in our cell phones. How would someone gain access to that? Because we have to enter a password and we have to, use our fingerprint or our face or whatever. There's so many like layers to entering our phone. How could someone gain access to that?
So that's a really good question. And first of all, you mentioned something that's becoming more and more popular. It's multi-factor authentication. So it used to be, we just type in a password, and a lot of people didn't use strong passwords. So we talk about when you do put a password in, use a strong password, not the same password for a lot of accounts or a similar password, and maybe use a password manager too. But when we talk about multi-factor authentication, that's like using your finger or your face to get into your apps or your accounts. Also, it might mean getting a code texted to you. Well, you say, how can people get into our accounts? A lot of people might send you an email, a phishing email that's not legit, that looks very legit. And then they might say, you need to log in and reset your password on your bank account. And you think you're going to your bank account, but you're not. It's not the bank's website. And then you type in your credentials and they have your credentials.
Oh, your old password. Yeah. You think
your password. Yeah. Because you think you're changing your password and you're not. So those are things to be wary of if you get, if you're not going to your app and changing the password, they might be sending you a phishing email. So there's a lot of phishing going on. Also, we have a lot of people, like we've talked this before, like spoofing debit cards. But one thing I do want to bring up when we talk about creating strong passwords and being secure with your information, we hear this a lot, that people write their PIN on the back of their debit cards. That's a really bad idea, because if you lose your debit card, someone has your PIN.
Yeah, right.
And that's just like saying, here, take my money.
Well, and most cards anymore, you can bypass the PIN anyways.
Exactly.
Like when you're purchasing
the credit. And so a lot of people don't understand that. In fact, I even had this discussion with my 26-year-old son the other day. He couldn't find his wallet, and he's like, well, they don't know my PIN, so I don't have to worry. And I said, it doesn't matter. They can run it as a credit card. Like if you bought stuff online shopping, you don't put a PIN in. And he was shocked. He didn't even realize that.
Yeah. And that's, and not to throw shade at your son or anything like that, but for young people, they don't understand that. They think because like, well, I've got a pin and you have to enter the pin every time. Well, there's workarounds on those things,
and for young people, their debit cards are more important than older people who might have established credit, might have a credit card they can use instead. A lot of people rely solely on their debit card.
Right.
And when you do that, this really puts you out of action when you don't have it. Nowadays, though, we have a lot of apps that you can use like Venmo to pay for things. My daughter was in England and she signed up to have her credit cards available to use in England and all that, and called all of her banks so she could use her debit card and all that stuff. None of it worked when she got there.
No way.
And so she was visiting a friend who was going to school in England, so she just Venmoed her money everywhere they went.
Yeah.
So that does help, but
Right.
that can be a huge problem if you're in a different country and you have no access to your cards.
Sure.
But also, one thing we talk about a lot too is confining your shopping to trusted URLs. So sometimes people will click a search and will show, like, let's say you do a Google search and you're looking for like a Stanley mug. I'm just making something up, and all the stuff comes down. Well, it might not be a legitimate website that you're on.
Right.
And so you have to be really careful on that stuff too.
I think the big one for that is like the Facebook marketing, the Instagram marketing, the TikTok marketing, where it's like, this great product is 70% less than you would pay at a normal retailer, and you click on it and then it takes 6 months to get to you, and by the time it gets to you, your account has been compromised and things. I've had that happen to friends before. Like that's a real thing. So
and there's some like I know I was looking up jewelry on a website for a gift for someone, and then I would get all the stuff on my feed.
Yes, that's the other. I was just gonna say, you like when you started doing that, like that stuff will show up on your Instagram feed, your TikTok feed, your Facebook feed, and you gotta make sure it's legit. Like, yeah, that's for sure.
And so one thing to look at is when you're on a trusted URL, it will have the HTTPS with a colon, and there's like a little lock that's locked on the web browser bar.
Yeah.
And that means it's a
secure site. Yeah. That S means it's secure, right?
Yeah. And the S means it's secure. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to get the product, but at least they took the time and effort to have a secure shopping site.
Sure.
So that's one thing. And also you can hover over the website address because sometimes it will look legitimate. Like let's say you're on a web page and it says Amazon, and you can click on it and it will take you to Amazon supposedly, but you hover over it, the link, and it could be taking you to something completely different.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. I've seen that before.
Yeah. So that's a good way to be careful that you're really going to a real shopping site.
Right. But if you're on your phone, it's hard to do that, right?
Right. And nowadays, most people shop strictly on their phone. They use their phone for everything. A lot of people don't even own a laptop anymore. So it's even harder. That's why I'm wearing glasses, so I can see my phone and be really careful. But yeah, you're right. It's harder to see that information when you're using a phone.
Right. When it comes to cybersecurity, Connie, are there apps? Are there checks and balances for us as like card holders? Because like I've got all my cards on my phone, and I use Tap to Pay all the time. And so somebody gets my phone, like they're gonna have all my stuff. You know what I mean? So are there things we can do to like secure our phones, secure our accounts, those sorts of things?
Well, nowadays, a lot of the phones are face recognition, which can be good or bad. I've had people take the face. I have two daughters who look somewhat similar. They can open each other's phones.
Oh, no way.
Very easily.
Wow.
You can use a picture of someone and open their phone.
Oh.
So it's not as easy as it seems. The fingerprint is a little more secure. Mine's very sensitive. Doesn't work all the time.
Right. Yeah, same.
So those are some of the issues with making sure your phone is secure. When you do, but a good idea, best practice for your phone is to have a good PIN. I know some people just put a 4-digit PIN in, but you can do a longer PIN, and that makes it, and don't make it like your birthday. your dog's birthday, your dog's name, things like that. I'm talking to you millennials, and they do that all the time. I'll ask them, I'll be like, Fluffy 1, 2, 3 or Fluffy 1 with an exclamation point, So that's another thing too. When you're filling out security questions for different websites, don't use the real information. Like, don't use your
I've never heard that before.
Yeah. So actually my son, who didn't know about debit cards, he's a developer for Amazon. And that's one of the things he told me they recommend for best practices is to just keep a book, not even a password manager, but a book full of that information for all the websites you go to.
Oh, Connie, you're hitting me in the heart with that one. I don't want to do that. That is a pain in the neck.
But it's so easy. One of the problems is people overshare on social media and they don't even realize they're doing it.
Right.
I was in the bank the other day in the lobby and I heard a gal talking about going on vacation and said, "Oh, you'll see it all on Facebook when I get there." And it's like, oh my gosh, that's such a bad idea. That's saying rob my house.
Yeah.
So you got to be really careful.
G Flowers has talked about that with us a lot over the years, the summer vacation season and all that, like save your pictures for later, all those things. So
exactly. Yeah, you don't want to do that. Plus, if people know like what you're up to, what you're doing, they can sort of befriend you or use your friends' profiles to message you, like set up something that looks like your friend, but it's not.
Yeah, sure.
And befriend you and work their way into your personal information.
Yeah.
But if you're putting your parents' names, your kids' names, all that is on Facebook, it's easy for them to figure out passwords and information to get into your websites if they really want to.
Sure. Connie, I look at the clock. We could use a break. Anything on cybersecurity we haven't touched on, you want to put out there for us? I know we'll get more into scams. We've touched on a little bit of those already, but anything on cybersecurity we didn't touch on today?
One thing we didn't talk about is using a credit card versus a debit card.
Okay.
And it's becoming more common for people to use a credit card if you feel you can pay off your balance every month and you're comfortable using a credrit card.
That's a big caveat right there.
Yeah, that's a big caveat. It might be preferable to use a credit card because then you don't have to worry about money being taken out of your account
and recovered. Yeah.
Right. Because it takes 10 days. They have a 10-day period before they put provisional credit into your account. They can have up to 10 days. And depending on what the breach is, you might not get that money back.
Okay.
So we can talk more about that.
Yeah. Well, let's break here. Come back with some more. I know you're at DeWitt Savings Bank. How do folks reach you there, Connie?
My number is 217-935-7739, or they can just call the bank. It's 217-935-9470.
Connie Miller, DeWitt Savings Bank, our guest in studio. More to come with Connie on the morning show.
WHOW.
Weeknow.com.
At work, I'm Jim Taylor. Corn steady, beans slightly higher, wheat slightly lower. December corn up 3/4, 4.22 March corn down 1/4, 4.38. May corn down 1/2 penny, 4.46 3/4. November beans up 4.25, 10.22. January beans up 3.25, 10.39. March beans 10.53 up 2.5. December wheat 5.11 3/4, down a penny. March wheat down a penny, 5.29 1/4. October bean meal or October bean oil 50.08 up 29 cents. Livestock trade 62.85 up 45 cents. October live cattle up 77 cents, 232.65. October lean hogs 97.95 down 37 cents. Energy market November crude oil 61.35 down 34 cents. This is the RFD Radio Network.
Tim Gould Farms in Henry County. He trusts Illinois Farm Bureau to have his back, and so can you.
Farm Bureau has a very large impact on local communities and on the state level. There's different avenues of communications, such as Farm Week, Ag Safety, Ag in the Classroom, scholarship programs. Between an off-the-farm job, the farm, and family, my life without Farm Bureau would feel as though I'm on my own.
The Illinois Farm Bureau Advantage. Impactful advocacy, trusted information, and meaningful development.
Find out how you and your family can save up to 40% on the meat, produce, and grocery items you use every day by clicking the Clinton Save-A-Lot icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Jay Peterson here from Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton, Farmer City, and Marilla. Find out how Pekin Insurance can give you peace of mind by clicking our icon at DeWittDailyNews.com.
Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW.
Once again, a good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. My guest in studio this morning, Connie Miller with DeWitt Savings Bank. Connie, we're talking scams here for this morning after a conversation about cyber security, and the two really go hand in hand. How about scams? What's the latest? Like, what are you seeing right now?
We're seeing AI generating phishing emails.
Okay.
So, in the old days, you get a phishing email and you could tell because the English wasn't correct and the logos were a little off and things like that. Well, when AI is creating the emails, they're a little more perfect. They look like the real thing. And it's harder to tell. Mm-hmm. So you have to be more wary and more careful. Mm-hmm. So if you get emails that you're not expecting, check them out. So like, for example, latest phishing emails, like we have one, it's a callback one where they tell you to call back. They'll say, call me back at this number. Maybe they're the bank or something like that. Look at the email, because if it's not the bank, you could be calling somewhere and they'll ask you a bunch of security questions. Like, we need to verify your account. What was your mother's maiden name? What was this? What was that? So don't call back that number if you get something you don't expect. Like they say, we suspect there might be some fraud on your accounts, and it looks just like the DeWitt Savings Bank, logo and everything. It's very easy for them to take that and put it on a different email.
And with AI, they can do it seamlessly.
Yes. And if you click, like some people because people use their phones now to read email, there's a click to call. And it would look like our number, but it might not be.
Right.
It can go to some other number.
Right.
So
yeah.
That you got to be really careful with that stuff. Go to our website, check and make sure it's correct, the correct number, call us.
Yeah. Well, and one thing and this has been hammered home by Social Security, by law enforcement, by you, by Better Business Bureau, more often than not, unless you are anticipating correspondence from almost anywhere, you're not like, Social Security is not going to randomly reach out to you. Your bank isn't like, I got an email this morning from the bank about potential fraud purchases on my account. Turns out it's fine. It was just an off day from when we usually spend money. But anyways, but like, I was double checking. I'm like, wait a minute, this looks legit. Like, is this really? And it so it kind of went through the verification process of like, yeah, this is real. But like, unless you're expecting correspondence from these places, they're probably not reaching out to you randomly to secure your account or whatever.
Exactly. And some steps you can take to be proactive. You can put alerts on your cards. On all of my cards, I have every single transaction shows up as a text or an email. The one thing to be wary of is if you're doing like a gas purchase, it might show up as $1. And
yeah, that's always weirded me out.
Yeah, so that's a little confusing, but that will let you know, oh yeah, I did use my card here. This automatic payment is coming out on my account. So you can it sort of jogs your memory, or you can confirm, but you might see something that's out of the ordinary. That's when you call your bank.
Right.
Call right away. There's a number on the back of the cards. You can call that number and talk to somebody there and check to make sure what was charged on your account.
No question. Very good. What other kinds of scams are we seeing right now, Connie?
I think it's PayPal is a big one right now.
Okay.
People are creating PayPal accounts and they send you an invoice. And it looks legitimate. And if you're not expecting an invoice, for a purchase you didn't make, and then you get mad and you get worried. And then there's a phone number that's supposed to be the PayPal phone number. If you don't recognize this charge, call this number. You call the number, and it's not PayPal that you're talking to. You think you are, but it's not. And then they'll ask you for identifying information to confirm your identity, and it will be things like your mother's maiden name, your last name, your address, all that stuff. And
you said when you set that up, don't use your real information, right?
Yeah. So like, I know it's hard. Some people just don't want to do that.
Right.
But if you don't use your real information, if you make up information and keep track of it, otherwise you're going to be in a world of hurt. But if you can do that, that might be the way to go, because then someone can't make a fake profile if they see your mom's name is like Mary Smith, or maiden name, because you post all over Facebook.
Right. Yeah, sure. Any other scams you're taking note of at this point?
I'd say those are the biggest right now are these, but I would say we are seeing a lot of people's debit cards being compromised, and we don't necessarily know where it's coming from. Now,
that's scary.
Yeah, like how they got your number.
Yeah.
Sometimes they can get it on the dark web. They're sold on the dark web. And we think that might be happening more often than it used to because of all these security data breaches that have been happening. So they might get that, or they might create your card with your identity.
Okay.
So that if they can get your social security number and your information, like your name, your date of birth, your social security number, where you live, they can easily get credit in your name. So that's something that we've talked about before, that you can check your credit. A lot of people, they might go into Credit Karma and look and see if there's anything suspicious, but also there's annualcreditreport.com, and that's free. And you can look in there and see if anybody applied for credit in your name.
Sure. Yeah. The credit reports, the checking your credit report is a great recommendation.
And that doesn't give you your credit score, but it will give you the data of all of the accounts that are open, closed, what payments are being made on it.
Sure.
So, and that's really important to check for your kids too, because
I was thinking that earlier. You had mentioned something. I was thinking about that with like kids, like they could be, using their information and you don't even know it because they don't have a credit score, right?
Right. And so right now, I don't know if you know this, but our data in America is sort of behind the times. Like our government's computers and following up with stuff, they're not really there.
Okay.
So people will prey on the kids' social security numbers.
Very good. So keep those things secure. Connie, always good to talk to you. Thanks for coming in this morning. Connie Miller with DeWitt Savings Bank, our guest in studio this morning. The morning show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Network News is now.
WHOW.